Oh, so my friend Cedric has been complaining recently about the a newsletter issue I wrote. I did check with him before mentioning all of this, by the way, which is the piece I wrote recently about the psychology of lit RPG. Um, and his complaint is that it's very good, and he's correct. It is very good, if I do say so myself. But the irritating thing is that it's not actually about lit RPG at all. He says. Um, uh, and now I have to refer to it as David's piece on lit RPG instead of McKeever's treatise on the media as opiate for modern meaninglessness. And same picture, but the but he's correct. It's about a very general tendency that happens to be expressed in lit RPG, and and I think you can read it as such. I think many people who have never heard of lit RPG in their life have read it and gone, "Oh yeah, that's what's going on." Um, like I use the term clarity porn to describe what lit RPG does for you, and at least one person has read that and gone, "Oh yeah, that's why I play XCOM." Which I mean, it's also the term I use for video games there, so it's not a giant leap, um, but the point is that it is about a general tendency that happens to be expressed in this particular context. And I could have written the general version of this about how this is a thing we're all doing. This is blah, 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 modernity, blah, 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 meaning crisis. And the reason I didn't is sort of twofold. Firstly, like I wanted to understand lit RPG. That was why I wrote it. But secondly, I think the more important reason is that it wouldn't have been very good. Um, and I think that this is this underappreciated uh, fact that often the most interesting things that you discover are not come don't come from trying to solve some big problem where you are going, oh yes, the world is in crisis, I will save the world from this crisis. It does, you're not able, you don't sort of go and attack the grand problems. You don't try to explain everything. You instead look at this one particular thing that's in front of you and go, huh, well, that's funny, what can I do about that? And you can see this in Thi Nguyen's work that I cited in this. His book, Games, Agency as Art, is among the more useful pieces of philosophy I've read. And not just for games, it sort of has, it's all about agency and technologies is of it, and how humans behave and what human motivations are like. And it does all these general things, but it does all these general things because he really likes games and he wanted to understand how games worked. And I think that, and you see some of that as well in the other paper of his I cited, Moral Outrage Porn. He's got some interesting general observations in there, but he's starting with the thing essentially, um, people behave in this particular way on the internet. What's up with that? Um, and I've seen this in my own research. Like you see this, like the big thing with Hypothesis was me trying to solve like really quite specific, annoying user experience problems and doing some interesting novel research from this. And I think there are sort of two big reasons why going for these hyper specific problems will produce much more interesting work. And even if you then use that work and generalize it to a larger problem, I think we'll be better starting there. Um, and the first is just by virtue of being hyper specific, it's much less likely someone else has looked at it. Um, like you've got 9,000 people on the internet. No, you've got far more than 9,000 people on the internet talking about um, modernity and meaning crises, and most of them are a complete waste of time. I'm not saying all of them are a complete waste of time, but most of them are a complete waste of time. And um, it's very hard to find something new to say about that if you start from that point, because um, of all of these people who've already looked at it. Um, the I guess I said there was going to be two things. There's going to be three things, or three. Yeah. Yeah. So like the other thing is like when you've got these big problems, you don't really know whether you've succeeded. You come up with these very big, good sounding explain everything theories, but no one is going to implement social reform on the basis of your theory about how we all need to return, because um, making big changes is hard, and so you essentially your theories are never tested. Your theories are never aren't things that people will actually act on. And so it's much easier to just convince yourself that they're true in the absence of any evidence. Um, and I guess like that was sort of the same point I was going to make as the second point, but sort of the big thing is feedback loops. When you're looking at a very specific problem, you can essentially get a good feedback loop on how you understand it. You can try things against it. And because it's so small and so concrete, you can see, is this thing I'm doing working? Does this make sense? Does this actually solve this problem? And as a result, it gives you a mountain to climb that you can like find your way to the top in a way that trying to, and you can sort of see, you can develop new insights that you would have missed in a way that something without this clear guidance provided by the specific problem would it would make it much harder to discover things. That's all I've got to say for today. So bye for now, and I will see you in the next video.